Okay. It says in the pasuk, "Vayisreitu habanim bekirba v'tomer mkein lamazan noichi." The famous Rashi says, "Rabbi Seinu darshu lashin ritza k'sha'isa iveres al pischei Torah." When Rivka was passing by the pischei Torah, shalshem ve'ever, Yaakov ratz u'mafarches latzeis. Yaakov was trying to get out to the Beis Medrash. Iveres al pischei avodah zarah. When she passed the pischei avodah zarah, Esav mafarches latzeis. Then Esav was trying to break out. So there's a kasha on this Chazal. Rashi is coming from a Medrash. The kasha is that the Gemara in Sanhedrin, the Galaf Amud Beis, says the shaila between Antoninus and Rebbe. Antoninus asked the shaila to Rebbe. He asked him a few shailas. In one of his shailas it says, "V'amar le Antoninus le Rebbe, me'emes ha-Yetzer Hara shail ba'adam." When is the Yetzer Hara? When's that controls the group over a person? Mishas Yetzira or Mishas Yetzia? Is it the time that the baby is formed inside the mother's womb, or is it Mishas Yetzia when the baby goes out of the mother's womb? Mishas Leida. Amar le Mishas Yetzira. So Rebbe said it's the time that the baby is formed in the mother's womb. So Amar le Antoninus asked, he asked the Kashim, "Ken bayibime imay v'yaytze?" If he's shaylet, then the baby should just break out of the mother's womb, and he should break free. Why doesn't the baby break free? He should run out because of the drive of the Yetzer Hara. So Ela Mishas Yitzia. So Gemara's Rebbe was chayzer. He says no, really it's B'shas Leida. Amar Rebbe said Davar Zel Lamadi Antoninus. Antoninus told me this. Umikra Messiah, and have a pasuk to prove him. Shenemar LePesach Chatas Reivetz, that at the opening of the womb, that's where the Yetzer Hara is ready to pounce on the person. That's when he's shaylet on the person. So the Marsha on this Gemara asks from our Rashi in Parshas Todos that the Gemara is saying that it is only shaylet mishas yitzia. So then how could it be that Esav was mefarches latzeis already when he was b'mei imay? And he also has a kasha from another Gemara in Yuma. The Gemara in Yuma and the Kimmel Pebezam Beis says a story where it says Hahi Ubra da Archa. There was a pregnant woman. She smelled something on Yom Kippur, and she had a taiva to eat. So Asla Kamei the Rebbe, they came in front of Rebbe. Amar Lahu. So he told the people that Zilu L'Chushla, go and whisper into her ear the Yuma de Kippur, that today's Yom Kippur. L'Chushla, and they whispered in her ear. V'ilchisha, and she was makabel. She listened and she didn't end up eating. And the Gemara says, Nafak mino Rabbi Yochanan. Out of her came Rabbi Yochanan. And the Gemara says a similar story, a different story that happened, and this Mubarak, she ended up, she couldn't hold back and she did eat. And the Gemara says that out of her came a Rasha, and the Gemara brings a pasuk from Zeir Risham me Rechem, that the Risham already planted from within the Rechem. So the Marsha asked him, Kasha, how could it be that it seems that there was a Yetzer Hara already from Mishas Yetziras of Lad, before the baby was born, not like the Gemara in Sanhedrin. So the Marsha wants to say that, to answer the Gemara in Yuma, he says, since the mother had a taiva eaten by her, it's Shaylat Yetzer Hara, so that went on to the baby also. However, but our Chazal with our Rashi with Esav, he says it's still shver because Rivka didn't have any taiva for avodah zarah. So why was it Shayla by Esav, and he blibes shver? So to answer the kasha, there's a teretz from. Well, first of all, I wanted to just say over that there's the Rebbe Kiva Eger. He says b'derech drush al pi this Gemara in Yuma. He says with these two ladies that were pregnant, one of them ate and one of them didn't eat. One of them came a tzaddik out of her, one a rasha. He says it's merumas in the pasuk at the end of Parshas Shmini. It says in the pasuk different behemoths that you're allowed to eat, different behemoths you're not allowed to eat. But he says, Derech Jush, he says lahavdul bein atame uvein atar uvein achaya nechelos uvein achaya shaloi seyachel. So he teaches if you want to know the difference between who's gonna be a Tomei, be a Rasha, who bein HaTorah is going to come out a tzaddik, it's bein Achaya and Achelos, bein Achaya Shalei Seyachels. It's dependent on the Chaya, which is the one who's pregnant, who, if she's going to eat or she's not going to eat on Yom Kippur. The one that eats on Yom Kippur is going to come out a Tomei, the one that doesn't is going to come out Rabbi Yechanan. But to answer this kasha, so the Imri, there's a Be'er Sheva, there's a Talmud of the Lavush, and from the Smag, from the early Achreinim, Rabbi Kiva Yeager brings him down a few times in Gilyon Hashas, and he wants to say that there's really two types of Yetzer Haras. There's a Yetzer Hara HaMachshavi and there's a Yetzer Hara HaMaisi. And he says, he brings a raya that he wants to say even already when the baby is in its mother's womb, he has a Yetzer Hara HaMachshavi, that Yetzer Hara that gives him at least a machshava to do something bad. And he proves it from the Gemara in Nida. The famous Gemara, Laman Beis, it says that in the pasuk Miyataneni Kiyarchi Kedem, the Gemara says, what does it mean Miyataneni Kiyarchi Kedem? So the Gemara says, referring to Elu Yarchi Leidas, the 9 months of when the woman's pregnant. And during those 9 months, it says, they teach him Kol HaTerakula. So the Be'er Sheva says, if they're teaching him Kol HaTerakula, then he must have seichel. So if he has seichel, he must have the seichel to understand between what's good and what's bad. And therefore, we could say that he already has the Yetzer Hara, at least the Yetzer Hara HaMachshavi, and who then he has Yetzer Taif. And he says Esav, his Yetzer Hara got him that he decided to choose to want to do bad. Therefore, he was trying. He couldn't do it. Lamaisa, he couldn't do it, but he was trying to get to the Avodah Zarah. And Yaakov, he was listening to his Yetzer Taif to choose to go to the Beis Medrash. But the problem with this is the Sefer Pnei David from the Chida. He brings down this teretz, and he says Devar of the Chukim. He doesn't like this whole new idea that there's two types of Yetzer Haras, Machshavi and a Maisi. So move on to a different teretz from the Imrei Nayam. Imrei Nayam, he's brought down a few times from the Marsha. And he basically says that you're right, really the Yetzer Hara only is B'Shas Leida. However, by Yaakov and Esav, that which he was Perchas Latzis Avodah Zarah, it was a special nes. It was B'derech nes. And it wasn't the normal thing. So the Pnei David, Chida, he asks, say that's a good teretz for Esav, but what are you going to, all the stories with the Mubaris that smells on Yom Kippur and then she ends up eating, you're going to tell me that was also a derech nes. He says, if you want to tell me Yaakov and Esav, he says Yaakov and Esav, I can understand. He says by Yaakov, he says Bishlam agavi Esav shayich nes, because he says Yaakov and Esav are Rashi ha'olam. Yaakov is Risha in leZera Yisrael Segulas Hashem, and Esav is the Reish leSitra Acher. So because Esav is the Reish l'Sitra Acher, so you can understand there's a derech nes that even b'mei iman he already had the Yetzer Hara, or Yaakov is already running to the Beis Medrash. But what are you going to say in the Gemara in Yuma and all those other stories? So just in this teretz of the Imrei Nayam, there's a Sefer Teres Chesed, and he asks on the Imrei Nayam that he wants to prove like the Imrei Nayam that he's right, because forget about Esau for a second. Look at Yaakov. Yaakov, we see he was mefarchas latzes to go to the Bati Midrashes. So you see, he already had Yetzer Taif. Now the Yetzer Taif, the in Avester of Nasan in Parak Tazayin, Lachabez, it says that the Yetzer Taif comes only. It says La'achar Yud Gimel Shana Noilad Yetzer Taif. So that's way after he's born. Only by when he's 13 he gets to his type. So why in the world was Yaakov running to like Esav? And there's some shayla of Mishas Yitzira, Mishas Leida, but Yaakov doesn't make any sense. It's only by Yud Gimel Shana. So Bakarcha it was a nes. So just like by Yaakov it was a nes, so then so too by Esav it was also a nes, and he's matmiya on the Imrei Nayam why he didn't bring a raya from Yaakov. So the Chida comes along and he says that the Teres Chesed, he must have not seen a Piskei Taisus. He brings down a Piskei Taisus at the end of the third parak in the Gemara Nedarim, and the lashon of Piskei Taisus is He says, Yetzer toiv nasan b'me'ei imay sheyidea kol ha'teira. He says that since they're teaching him Torah, so he already has Yetzer toiv b'me'ei imay. The Gemara, the Avester of Nasan says only by 13 years. So he says, Ubishas Leida, when the baby is born, Nichnas by Yetzer, the Yetzer comes in, V'az migrash as Yetzer toiv, and he kicks out the Yetzer toiv, and then the Yetzer toiv only is gonna he returns once the kid turns 13. So says the Chidah. So there's, according to what the Pesach Taisus is saying, you don't have any raya from Yaakov Avinu that is Mafarchas Latis, because that's the derech that Avada, there's even B'mei Imay Avada, there's Yetzer toiv. So that's why he was Mafarchas Latis. It's only the kasha is on Esav that there's no Yetzer Hara until Mishas Leida. So that he was bringing a raya from Esav, there must be, it was a special nace why the Yetzer Hara came already earlier. It's very interesting. He says that according to the teretz of the. Oh, I just wanted to say also. I was thinking a shtickle raya to the Piskei Tosfos is, if you look in the Avester of Nasan over there. So it says there la'achri yid gimel shana nel Yetzer toiv. If you look a few lines later, it says the Yetzer toiv einay daim el mishu chavash bebeis hasurin. He's similar to someone that's in jail. Shenamar ki mi beis hasurim yatsa limleich. Zeh Yetzer toiv. The Pasuk Kelos, it says that from the jail he comes out to rule. So from the fact that it's saying that he's doimet to someone that's in the beis hasurin in a jail, so it sounds like he was once here before. It's not like he didn't exist until after 13. It seems like he already existed. So what does it mean? So according to Piskei Tosfos, it's very good. He existed when he was b'mei iman. Just b'shas leida, he got kicked out, and therefore he's considered like he's in jail until 13. And then he comes out. But so the Pnei David, he says, according to this Pshan Imrei, he wants to say b'derech drush. He says that b'shem the Mekubalim, he says that he wants to explain the Gemara in Sanhedrin between Rabbi Antoninus. He says the Mekubalim say that Rabbi and Antoninus were Gilgulim from Yaakov and Esav. Rabbi was a Gilgul of Yaakov, and Antoninus was a Gilgul of Esav. So when Antoninus was asking Rabbi, when does the Yetzer Hara come? Is it the time of the Yetziras Havlad, or is it time when the baby is born? What he was really asking him, he says, this one in my previous Gilgul, when I was Marfeches Lotzeis to Avodah Zara, was that like K'minhag Ha'olam, and because the Yetzer Hara comes already in Mishas Yetziras Havlad? Or was that a special nace? And really, usually the Yetzer only comes Mishas Leida. And he says that Rebbe originally just answered, of course it's Mishas Yetzira, and he didn't have a kasha that he should then break out, because Rebbe, he says Rebbe was kulei toiv. It didn't register for him that even if a person would have Yetzer, he should try to mamish break out. But then he says he never was really misbainin about that. But then afterwards he was chayzer, and they came out that it was really Mishas Leida, and it was a special nace, according to the name. But at the end of the whole arichas here, the Pnei David, he ends up saying that, he says, V'hayoyser nachin be'inyan hazeh, he brings on the Taretz from Taisus Yom Kippurim in Yuma, and he says the Gavaldik Taretz. He says, if you have to look back and we may say a few things on it, but look back in the Gemara Sanhedrin. So there's another shaila there, a few lines earlier. It says, it's a shaila about the neshama. It says, "Va'amar le'Antoninus l'Rebbe, neshama me'emas nitna ba'adam." And the neshama, when is that given to a person? Mishas pekida, or mishas yitzira? Is it during the time of conception, or is it the time when the baby is formed? That was the shaila there. But if when you look at the next shaila with the Yetzer Hara, the lashon is "Amar le'Antoninus l'Rebbe, me'emas Yetzer Hara shoylet ba'adam." So if you notice by the shaila a few lines earlier, by the neshama, he words it as me'emasai nitna ba'adam. But when it comes to the Yetzer Hara, Antoninus asks me'emasai shoylet ba'adam. So Zog Teiz Yom Kippurim, that we say that the Yetzer Hara is shoylet b'shas leida, that's only when he's actually shoylet, when he actually rules over the person. But when the Yetzer Hara is actually given to a person, that ain't a chanami. That could even be even earlier, even mishas yitziras havlad, and you can bring a raya because Antoninas asked the Rebbe that if you say that he's shoylet from mishas yitziras havlad, so why isn't he bayit be'ima v'yaitzi? Why doesn't he break out? So Lamaisa, Esav, he didn't break out Lamaisa. He only was mafarchas, but he didn't break out. So obviously, so it's a raya minei ubei that it was never really shoylet by Esav the Yetzer Hara. Avada was only shoylet mishas yitzias havlad when he was actually born. But this is mafarchas lotes because like upon him it was nitna by Yetzer Hara. Just and that's found in the Gemara in Yuma also. The Gemara in Yuma there also was because it's nitin by Yetzer Hara. That's why it is. They had a taiva to eat on Yom Kippur. Derech Agav, just this on this Gemara by the Neshama, it says the shaila was whether if it's mishas pekida or mishas yitziras havlad. So it seems like there's no tzar that the Neshama comes mishas leda. So I have over here tzarich Ian me Nigune Rottenberg. Nigune Rottenberg. Some Avi Rottenberg from Journeys. The song Neshamala. It says the lyrics there. It says it says, "Come with me, little Neshamala. Don't shy away. Do as you're told. There's a little child waiting to be born today. You're to be a spark his soul." So it's medayik in the lyrics that the neshama comes mishas leda. So tzarichin from the Gemara Sanhedrin. If anyone has his number, please give it to me. I would like to ask him.
At the end of Parshas Nayach, Rashi says on the pasuk, it says,
"Oh, very good. Yeah, we're."
So Rashi says,
Right, very good. So we're just going to speak to that. So this Teretz Tezim Kippurim is really there's a lot of different nuschais. If you look at that Rashi and by Parshas Nayach, Rashi is coming from a Bereshis Rabbah, and if you look at the Bereshis Rabbah, it brings down the shaila of Antoninas and Rebbe, and the lashon of the Bereshis Rabbah is Amal Antoninas Rebbe Emes Yetzer Hara Nasan Ba'adam. It says Nasan, and a few places in Yalkut Shemaini also brings down the shaila, and it says Nasan. There's a Rashi in Keheles. It says Shemishash and Neilad Havlad who Nasan by Shenam Pesachatas Revit. So depending on Ma'aseh the Gemara Sanhedrin says Shailit, but you go with the Gersai that it's Nasan, so you won't have this teretz. It seems like it's only given to him later. Rabbi Asher Krasnow, he showed me a sefer, Chamudei Yitzchak, and he tells to a very interesting Maramakim. He tells to a tour in Hilchos Pidyon Bechar, and I just forgot one thing. I just wanted to bring a raya to this, that the Yetzer Hara is already given mishas from when by Yetziras Havlad from the Avos of Nasan. If you look at Halacha Gimel, there's a member that says, how is a person distance himself from the Yetzer Hara Shabemeyav? And he goes on to explain why the Yetzer Hara is so stark by a person. He says, Lefi shetipa rishayna sha'adam matal bi'isha hu Yetzer Hara. Because the tipa rishayna, like it says, ma'ayin basam tipa srucha, is that Adam's matal bi'isha is hu Yetzer Hara. So it sounds like when I was to Rav Nasan that the Yetzer Hara already comes in from the tipa rishayna, which would mean that he has Yetzer Hara at least from b'mei imay, not mishas leda. Al kapon that it's Nasan Yetzer Hara. But fine. So there, in the Torah brings down, and the Rosh and Kiddushin Simam Aleph, they bring up bracha from the Ga'ainim by Pidyon Bechar, that there's a bracha there Masak, and we're not knowing to say it, but in the bracha it says it's a very nice bracha. It says, well, the quote part of it says, Baruch Atah Hashem L'keinu Melech Elam Asher Kidesh Uber B'mei Imai. It talks about Arbam Yem Cholak Yivarav Messiah. So part of it says he appointed 2 malachi asharis to guard over the baby b'mei imay in the mother's womb. So the Bach explains what's this shmira that these 2 malachim are doing. The Bach explains that this shmira, he says, Nira the shmira zu hi shala yikanis Yetzer Hara be'uber ba'oidi b'mei imay. It's so that the Yetzer Hara shouldn't come in to the Uber while he's b'mei imay. Why? Kadisha tis'atzim ha'torah v'mitzvah b'libay b'gufay b'chor machi varem ki al kein malamdim ha'isik kol ha'torah b'mei imay. Shetei l'kedushas ha'torah v'mitzvah din kedim l'Yetzer. He says that he wanted that the Torah should be b'kedusha and should be before the Yetzer Hara comes in. So therefore he pointed to Malachi Ashares to block out the Yetzer Hara. This way he learns the Torah, he learns Kol HaTorah b'kedusha. So according to this Bach, it's mashma that there is no Yetzer Hara that's even given to the person b'mei imay, from the fact that these Malachi Asharis are being shomer. However, Lulei Dir the Bach, I was thinking just to say maybe a different pshat in this shmira. Could be that the shmira taka is just from a physical shmira to watch over the baby b'mei imay, and the shtickle smachtva is a Gemara in Tainus. The Gemara says that when the tzibur is fasting, if a person says to himself that I'm going to go into my house and I'm going to eat and I won't be mitzvah with the tzibur, so the Gemara says that Tana de Beishila Amri Shnei Malachi Ashares Hamalavin Leila Adam Hin Meidan Olav. They're going to be made on him. Shenema Ki Malachi Vitzavalach L'Shmarcha V'Chol Derechacha. The Gemara says there's two malachim that are malavin a person. And to learn from the puzzle, Ki Malacha Vitzavalach L'Shmarcha, and they're shomer person, and they're going to the ones that are going to be made. Now this shmira is a shmira from a physical shmira. What's my idea that it's a physical shmira? It's not from ruchnius things, because the Gemara in Hedron and Chelek brings down the whole kapitel Yeshiv B'Seiser, and it explains that this part Ki Malacha Vitzavalach is the mibirchas ha'im. The mother, the nature of the mother is worried about her son from physical damages, and therefore it's going on a physical damage. So we see that there's two Malachi Asharis, Malav and La'adam, and they're the ones that are shomer a person. So it could very well be that these are the same malachim, that Shnei Malachi Asharis, that in the bracha that says our shomer, it's just from a physical shmira. So a different pshat maybe could also, I was thinking that could be that it's very interesting. Look at the Gemara in Nida. It says when they teach him Kol HaTorah Kula, the lashon of the Gemara Nida, it says Melamdin Oisei Kol HaTorah Kula. Melamdin is Lashon Rabbim. So why is it Lashon Rabbim? Why isn't it? It's not one malach teaching him. It's mashma. It's two malachim. So why is it two malachim? So it could be that. So these are the two malachim that are teaching him Torah, and by teaching him the Torah, that gufa automatically creates a shmira, because the Gemara says Torah migni umatzli, and Rashi explains migni is from physical things and matzli is from the Yetzer Hara. So by them teaching him Torah, that itself automatically causes a shmira from the Yetzer Hara, that he shouldn't be shaylet on him. And just a dogma to this, you find in the Gemara in Yuma, in the beginning, it says that 7 days before the Kohen would do the Avodah on Yom Kippurim, it says in the Gemara that they would appoint two Talmidei Chachamim that would be mechanechim for the Avodah, and they would teach him all the halachos of the Avodah. And why dafka two? And the Teis Yishanim says because Toiva Shnayim Mina Echad. So it could be that so to here, if they were going to teach the baby b'mei imay, the Torah, that they should be dafka two malachi hasharis, and that's good for the shmira, and therefore you could say that really Tahara is there, but it's just he's not shaylate because of this, because of the Torah itself, that's shame of the person. Okay. Go ahead. I like